Hey, what is going on, guys? Cova here, and welcome back to another edition of Transfer Gossip. Really heating up now, and we're starting with probably the most talked about transfer room that's been going on for so long, and that is Van Dijk. Latest is that he has apparently officially handed the transfer request in. Previously, it was just announcing he wanted to leave. You know, he wasn't really like pushing it. Obviously, if players do announce that they're going to hand in a transfer request, they lose bonuses and stuff like that. But obviously, he's willing to do that now to try and force a move away. Now, the interesting thing is, no club has actually said, we still want him. If I was Manchester City, I'd want Van Dijk. If I was Chelsea, I'd want Van Dijk. And if I was Liverpool, I would still want Van Dijk. So, there's still three options there for me. Even like clubs like, I think Everton would still go for Van Dijk. Even Arsenal. There's a lot of clubs that I think he would do a great job at. And basically get into their first team straight away. Next up is a guy called Wesley Holt. Speaking about Everton, they are considering a £12 million move for the Lazio defender. Done pretty well last season for Lazio, and whether he'd be a good addition to the Premier League or not is another thing. Again, linked with Everton is another centre-back, and that is Winston Reid. Again, he's getting linked with a move away from West Ham. Everton are looking at the West Ham centre-back. Again, they're looking for like a bit of experience at the back. They've got a fair few good young players coming through, such as Holgate. They are looking to have like a really strong back three because they did play 3-5-2 at one point. Next up is Aurier. His career is pretty much dead at PSG, and to be honest, with the spending that they're doing, they probably do need to raise funds by getting rid of him. Manchester United are the club interested in trying to get him away from PSG. As I say, after spending 200 million on Neymar, potentially like 170 million on Mbappe, someone is going to look at it and think, how are PSG doing financial fair play? Whether they'll just take the fine and won't be bothered about it, I don't know. But I'm guessing they will have a little bit of a clear out at the same time. I'll say Aurier has been pretty much of an outcast at PSG for a long time. Next up, Renato Sanchez, constantly getting linked to the move away from Bayern Munich. I think he's struggled to handle the pressure, if you will. And Klopp may go for Renato Sanchez as the Naby Keita alternative. Obviously, it looked like probably be a loan to begin with and potentially a permanent deal. Bayern Munich is stacked for like centre mids, and obviously everyone's looking at Sanchez going, can he fill the Xabi Alonso void? I'm not too sure. I think he's the same player. He seems to be more of a box-to-box midfielder, whereas Bayern really need like two sitting midfielders. So maybe that's why they want to get rid of him. I doubt they let him go on a permanent deal though. Danny Drinkwater is next up. Conte has been a long fan of Drinkwater, if you will, and they are really interested in trying to get the Leicester centre mid away from them and partner basically with Kante. That's how it looks. Chelsea, who have obviously got Kante from Leicester, they're now probably just looking at it thinking, you know what, we'll go for Drinkwater and combine the two because they were so successful at one point. Don't get me wrong, it would be a really good centre mid partnership, but you'd have to look at it and think, why would you get rid of Matic for Drinkwater? I don't know. Next up, Aaron Lennon. Obviously, he had a bit of a tough time recently, but Watford do want the Everton winger. With Everton also willing to sell him as well. Everton did give him a lot of support for probably I'm guessing the toughest time of his career. And that doesn't mean like they're just going to get rid of him just because of that. They did really help him a lot. And hopefully, if he goes to Watford and gets first team football back in London, might help him as well. He can turn around his career, and I wish him all the luck. Next up, Thomas Lemar. Liverpool may enter the race for the Monaco 21-year-old. And I think this really just depends on the Coutinho saga that's going on. Whether they do eventually sell him or not, I'm not too sure. Big money's getting touted around now. And, obviously, if you can get someone like Lemar in, who's going to be, 4 years younger. I'm not saying he's going to be as good, but he does have a huge amount of potential. He is a really, really good player already. Ross Barkley is next up. This guy, I don't know. He's kind of like said he wants to leave Everton at the wrong time. Everton have brought in like a really class manager, a really, really good amount of players. And the only player they've really lost is Lukaku. So, for Barkley to also say it now as well, it's a bit strange. Really no one's going to be interested in Barkley now, especially on like recent performances. It should have been last season, if any, where he tried to get like a big move to like, say, Manchester City. I don't know who would go in for Barkley. Tottenham get linked with him. But who would you rather have, Eriksen or Barkley? For me, it's Eriksen with the form that they're both on. So it'd be an interesting one. I don't know who would try and get him. I don't know who would be able to afford him as well. What fee would Everton try and command from him? Chris Wood is next up. Obviously, currently still starting for Leeds. He is getting linked with a move away to Besiktas. Apparently, they are interested in trying to get the Leeds striker away from them. Andros Townsend is next up. Stoke are planning a £15 million bid for the Crystal Palace winger. Obviously, they've lost Arnautovic to West Ham, and they're looking at Townsend as like kind of the replacement. Sergio Roberto is next up in the list. Manchester United have had a £36 million bid rejected for the Spanish right back. I think he's more of a right midfielder. I've obviously played right back for him quite a lot. Don't really know why United are going for someone like Roberto at right back. You know, they got Valencia, who I think done an absolute excellent job last season. Whether they just want someone who's like backup or what, I'm not sure. But either way, it's a lot of money to be spending on a player that doesn't really play right back. Coutinho, here he is next up. It is probably the biggest one. Liverpool rejected a £90 million bid from Barcelona for the Brazilian, which is absolutely a monster bid. I think it's absolutely crazy that that type of money is going for any player. Obviously, Neymar at 200 million is just ridiculous. I think Barcelona will keep coming. I think, it's either Coutinho or Dembele to replace Neymar. Not sure, who's the better option for them. Obviously, Dembele's more of a right midfielder. I don't know how they work that. Coutinho would be quite happy sitting on that left wing. Next up is Ben Gibson. Southampton will go for the Middlesbrough defender as their Van Dijk replacement. Obviously, it looks like Van Dijk will leave at some point. Another player who is set to leave the Premiership is Mbula. He's set to sign for Monaco and actually finally leave his it's basically nightmare stay at Stoke City. Chelsea have made a bid of £35 million for Oxlade-Chamberlain. I think it's mad, considering he's only got 1 year left on his current deal. Chelsea obviously do really, really want him for some reason. Probably due to his versatility, the fact that he can play in a lot of positions. Carvalho's next up again, another player that I mentioned so often. West Ham are preparing a £25 million deal for the Portuguese international. If West Ham gets someone like him, that does really prove that they are trying to push up and get those like Europe places in the Premier League. And finally, we end on Lucas Perez. The Newcastle boss Benitez wants the Spanish striker at Newcastle to obviously keep them in the Premier League. Don't know what type of fee will get touted round for him though, but he does want to try and get him from Arsenal. And that is it, guys. Probably the biggest one for me is obviously the Coutinho one who's on the bench. Barkely, what his future lies, I'm not too sure. But if you did enjoy it, make sure you do drop a like. And if for some reason you found the video, make sure you do also subscribe. And I shall see you in the next one.